Hi. So today we're going to go a little bit deeper into what carbohydrates are, and what we should be eating and how much we should be eating of carbohydrates throughout the day. So I'm sure a lot of like you've heard of the Atkins diet, which is a very low carbohydrate diet and was kind of a craze for a long time. Um, Carbohydrates are essential for your body to function, and especially essential for your brain to function. Uh, and carbohydrates are probably one of the most important things that you should be getting in your diet, and should make up about 50 to 60% of what you're eating every day. So this is the main fuel for your body. Like I said, your brain functions off of carbohydrates. Your body is fueled by it. So you're going to get 90% of your energy from the carbohydrates that you're eating. Now, there's different types of carbohydrates, and there's healthy carbs and there's unhealthy carbs. There's simple carbs and there's complex carbs, and simple versus complex doesn't mean healthy versus unhealthy. There's healthy simple, and there's healthy complex, and unhealthy in both. So basically, the difference between a simple and a complex carb is the structure of the carb. So a complex carb is if we're talking science, it's a longer chain of it's a longer chain. And it's complex in the sense that because it's bigger and longer, it's harder for our body to break it down, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But our body's going to do more work to digest it and break it down and use it. A simple carb is a shorter chain, and it's going to be absorbed more readily. So if you think of fruits, which fruits are very healthy, tons of vitamins and minerals in fruits, fiber, all kinds of things in fruits that you should be eating. Fruits are simple carbohydrates. But your body is going to absorb those sugars a lot faster because they're shorter chains. Whereas a complex carbohydrate or like whole grains, your body's going to absorb them more slowly. So the kind of carbs that we want to avoid, or the unhealthy carbs, are the refined carbohydrates and the added sugars. So refined carbohydrates, just think about your white pastas, your white breads, a lot of your crackers, all that junk. Those are your refined carbohydrates. And added sugar. So we want to avoid anything that has sugar added into it. For example, which we'll get into in another video later, look at the label for your peanut butter. So a lot of peanut butters out there have added sugar. Sugar does not belong in your peanut butter. So look at the label, look at the ingredient list, and if there's any source of sugar on there, then we'll talk about in a later video, how to get a healthier brand. But there's so many foods out there that have added sugars, and it's going to be a lot of your processed foods. So you just want to make sure that whatever you're consuming does not have sugar added to it. Fruits and vegetables and your whole grains, those are natural sugars that come from those foods. Nothing's been added to it. You go and you buy juice from the store, you buy those fruit cups. Usually the fruit is sitting in syrup and there's added sugar to it. So you want to avoid those. Just kind of some basic information about carbohydrates. There's 4 calories in 1 gram of a carbohydrate. And like I said, you want 50 to 60% of your daily calories should come from carbohydrates. So if you're eating a 2,000 calorie diet, you would want about 300 grams of carbohydrates in a day. and 25 grams of fiber. So fiber is, they're carbohydrates. Your fiber sources come from carbohydrates. And on average, you want about 25 grams of carbs, of fiber per day, to keep your gut healthy. All right, next slide. So we talked about what healthy carbs are: your whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and also your legumes. So legumes, if you're not a vegetarian, you typically tend to put the legumes in the carbohydrate bucket. If you are a vegetarian, they're typically used more for their protein, but they're kind of a 50-50 with their protein and carb for the beans. But what this chart is that you see, so that there's an apple there and there's a grain. And what I wanted to talk about is this grain on the bottom here and explain why we want to use whole wheat flour, whole grains, as opposed to the refined. So what happens when they're making white flour is they strip off these outer layers of the seed or of the wheat. They strip all that off, and all you have left is this endosperm in the middle. And basically that is what refined flour is. So it's been stripped, and all of the nutrients, all of the nutrition are in these outer layers, these bran layers in the germ. Holds all of the essential nutrients that make whole grains healthy. So they've taken all that off. So if you'll look at most bread that's on the shelf and it'll say enriched. The reason why it's enriched is because in processing, they stripped all this down. So they took all the nutrients out, so now they want to put them back in. We don't want that. We want the whole thing, because you're just getting like the leftover nothing. There's no nutritional value. There's no fiber there, and there's nothing healthy about it. So that's why we want to do whole grains, so we can get the good stuff, not everything that's been stripped away. We want the vitamins intact in the source. We want that fiber from that outer layer. And speaking to that, if you look at the above one, the skin, that's where the fiber is in fruit, is going to be in the skin. So you want to eat that fiber. One of the reasons, and I think we'll talk about this in another video, but what the fiber does when you're eating carbohydrates is it slows the absorption of the sugar. So an apple is more of a simple carbohydrate, and the sugars in the apple are going to absorb and digest very quickly, which can cause your blood sugar to go up quickly. However, if you eat the skin, the fiber in the skin helps slow down that absorption so that you don't have those spikes. So you don't want to peel your fruit. You want to definitely keep the skin on. Same with your potatoes. You want to eat the skin, because that's going to, for one, there's a ton of nutrients in the skin that are not in the actual fruit, inside of the fruit. But it's also going to help you to absorb and metabolize it more effectively. So that's just a little bit on carbohydrates. We're going to do proteins and fats in the next couple of days, so you can get a little bit of a sneak peek into what those are and what you should be choosing. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message, and I'm happy to answer anything. All right, guys, see you tomorrow.